Hi, this is Stephen McCall. Before I go into the rest of the video, I'd like to say that the subject matter is suicide, so it could be upsetting for some, so keep that in mind when you're watching this video. If it is going to upset you, then maybe this video isn't for you. But the thing that started me thinking about making this video is I saw an article about a lady whose husband killed himself 10 years ago, and she was struggling with forgiving him and not really understanding what had driven him to it. It felt like a selfish act and things of that nature. I had my own issue, which was on the 5th of December 2014, so 7 years ago. Well, I got quite close, so I'll talk about that in a bit, but I first talk about actually suicide had been part of my life, part of my thinking for years, since I was a teenager. I had an unhappy school time for various reasons, which I won't bore you with. But suicide, the idea of suicide, thinking about it, not planning it, but thinking about it, was always like a comfort. So if things were bad, the idea that I could end it all was a comfort. It sounds a bit probably counterintuitive, but actually it just, knowing you have an escape, not thinking about taking the escape, but knowing that you could, thinking about it can provide a certain amount of relief from whatever situation you're going through, or well, it at least did for me. But in December 2014, and you know, looking back, I've been depressed and anxious to various degrees since probably my teenage years. But in December 2014, I'd come to a point where the life I was in, I was extremely unhappy. I felt worthless. I didn't at all like myself. I hated myself, to be honest. And the life I was in wasn't for me. But I was married, I had children, and to get out of that situation and to possibly have a chance to do something new, to do something different, I would have had to leave my wife and my children, which I didn't want to do. But at the same time, staying in that situation, I couldn't handle it. I felt like I was a negative person, a negative thing for everyone. I thought people would be better off without me. But the idea that leaving meant that all my friends would dump me because I left my wife. So the idea of doing the thing that could possibly make life better for me, which is starting afresh, dealing with my own mental health, I realised that I've probably not made this clear, but there was no way to deal with my mental health problems within that situation I was in. It was impossible. It'd been made clear that I wasn't allowed to deal with those mental health problems. But I knew if I left, I would lose all my friends, and along with alcohol and other things, friendship was something that gave me relief. Being with people gave me relief from myself. And if I'd left, they would have left me, so I'd have been left on my own. And I saw my friends as my friends were the only things keeping me going. And to lose my friends, I couldn't bear the idea. But to live in the situation I was living in and feel so, like I was no good for my kids, I was no good for my wife of the time. I couldn't see a way out. And if I'd have stayed, I was going to die. And if I left, I wouldn't be able to cope either, and it was probably going to be bad. And it was one morning, the 5th of December was a Friday, and I was working from home, and I just couldn't get out of my head that I was giving nothing to life, that I was worthless. It wasn't that I was feeling selfish. I was feeling that I hated myself, and I didn't have anything to live for, and I wasn't giving anything to anyone, and everyone would be better off without me. And I'd always use suicide in my head as a relief, as a comfort, as I already explained. And at that moment, I couldn't be here anymore, and it just become overwhelming. And I won't tell you about what I was thinking about doing and what I almost did, but I was at the point where I just decided that I just couldn't cope. It was like a second decision. And then, as I was about to do what I was about to do, a question popped into my head, which stopped me. And that question is, what outcome did I want? It seems like a stupid question in a way, but this question saved my life. What outcome did I want? And I just paused. I don't know where the question came from, but I paused and I really thought about it. And I wanted to be found. I wanted for people to realise how much I was suffering, and I wanted people to forgive me for being me, and to be loved, and all the things that I felt I didn't have, that I didn't deserve. I just wanted it to change everything. So I wanted to be found. And then I realised that I didn't want to die at all. I wanted to live. And so I was in a real state, but the idea that I wanted to live took hold immediately. And so I drove to the doctors and completely freaked him out. I think he was out of his comfort zone. He offered me tranquilizers, but I already knew that I just wanted to get away from any sort of narcotic, whether that was alcohol or anything else. So I declined, and I went home. And it took about, I don't know, maybe 10 days before I finally left permanently that position. And leaving that situation was like this huge weight left my shoulders, and I felt much lighter. But at the same time, slowly over a period of time, as I knew it would do, I lost all my friends. There was, the thing that really struck me is no one ever asked what had happened. No one, none of these friends. Some friends who knew the struggles I've been having to a certain extent, not completely how bad it was, none of them ever asked. And I lost these friends, and it was a really difficult time. And I went through, I don't know, probably 18 months of bouncing along the bottom, and suicide was still my friend. Suicide was still my comfort, but it was the only time I ever planned it. But slowly there was something in me that knew that actually the things I was telling myself were not true. I wasn't worthless. I'm actually a good person. I'm not a bad person. People occasionally do some bad stuff, and I've done nothing illegal really, but I've done some things I'm not proud of. But deep down, I'm a good person. I want to do the best for people, and I bounced along the bottom into 2016, but never again did I feel like I did that day. That question really did save my life. And then when I got into mindfulness and started practicing, maybe it's my personality, or I don't know, but the practices I started doing it regularly and becoming more and more regular, really started to transform things for me. And so I had that near suicide moment, that moment where I nearly took my own life. And I then had lots of thoughts about suicide. But then I started stepping away from that. And actually, I started to really learn to like who I was, and not in an egotistical way. I started to love who I was, but more as an acceptance. I am who I am, and as I managed to do that and follow these practices of being present, etc., I started to live life. And my last breakdown was in May 2016, although there was some difficult few months after that. But it's, like life is infinitely better. This is, in actual fact, some of the things in my life, and I won't give you all the details, but life in some ways has been a lot more difficult, financially and things like that, since I got divorced and had to get the divorce to go through. But life is difficult. I don't see my kids anywhere near as much as I would like to, and now they're getting bigger, and they've got their own lives to lead, and things are difficult. But actual fact, because of my mindset, I'm actually enjoying life, and those difficulties, I'm at peace with them. I can deal with them. I'm still a human, so sometimes I get a bit reactive, but again, I can recognize that I'm doing that and I can step away from it. So practicing mindfulness has really, it's changed my life for the better. And it's given me, it's 7 years ago that day where I nearly made a decision that was irreversible, and it wasn't done out of selfishness. I just didn't think I was worthwhile. But now I've had another 7 years, and in actual fact, since late 2016, those years have been pretty good, despite difficulties, at peace. And that's why I just want to tell people about the practice that I carry out, and the various different things I've done to change my life. So there's this book. I've detailed what I've been doing, and I really hope it's helpful for people. But it's, you've got to do the work. It's not easy. Like I say, I went from 2014 to well into 2016, and things were not easy. It was difficult, and it's not a quick fix. But I want people to know that actually I went from that place where I was thinking of taking my own life, very close to taking my own life, and now I'm here. And I'm still, it's almost like another person was doing that thing 5th of December 2014, but I'm here. So if I'm an example that you can get better, So if you found this video helpful, and you think others will find it helpful, please share it with them. Please share it with anyone you think who would benefit from hearing this, whether it's about the mindfulness part or just an idea about the thoughts you have when you're in a really dark place, because people aren't doing that because they're selfish, So I hope this video has been of service to people and can help people a little bit. But thank you for listening, and if you get a chance, please pick up a copy of Mindfully Saving Myself One Moment at a Time, or just try and find whichever way you can learn to live with what's going on. But I wish you all luck.